So, and today's episode is going to be about procrastination. Something that I guess quite some people are struggling with, which is okay. Like, I do as well sometimes. But therefore, I think it is actually a pretty good thing to go through. But, as always, quite more after the intro. The goddamn motherfucking intro. Because there was no swearing in the pre-intro thing. But yeah. With that being said, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics Amazing podcast. And as you might can see right now, I'm not as bright or I'm not as cold as I used to be, because now I'm having actually a yellow picture in front of me and not a white picture, but you can totally spot the difference. Like, it is definitely not as bright as the other one, because this is something completely different. But it is I don't know, should I actually be using this one? Because I seem to be a lot brighter. You can see me. You can even see me, compared to that. Well, you can still see me, and I think I'm gonna stick with that one for today. Today is gonna be the orange day or something. But I think I still think it is just so kind of insane that I'm having a fucking screen in front of me, and the reason why it might be not as bright as the white one is because it is a smaller picture. Could be the reason, I don't know. The thing is, I think it is just so insane that I'm having a fucking picture in front of me to just light me up. It is just basically my light. And I'm also having another light on the side here, which you can totally spot as well. But yeah, this is not what we are going to talk about today, because today we are actually finishing up with yesterday's article at first, and then we are going ahead with the new one from the jamesclear.com website once again, just because it is an amazing website. It is just really amazing. I've actually had a look at the last point we haven't gone through yesterday, and it is so complex and so I do not want to say confusing, but it is just, I can't explain it to you. I've been going through it. I haven't somehow not actually understood it, therefore I'm gonna read it, and I hope that's okay. But the next one, I've also had a look at the next one, so from the James Clear website, and this is one that I'm going to talk about, and I'm also gonna pick out certain stuff because, I do not remember everything. I really do not, but yeah, that's fine. So the last one is how we get stuck. If you haven't checked out the last day's episode, which was all about perspective and focus, but on a scientific basis, and it was just amazing, or it is still amazing. It is really unfortunate that I do not get everything in this text, just because it is scientifically written. It is a scientific piece of paper. Well, it is actually not paper, but piece of screen. It is just scientifically written. This is what I want to say. And the problem there is I do not understand everything. I understand something, because I just understand it, and because I do just have a bit of context, I guess, or at least I assume, but I do not understand everything. This is also the reason why I'm going to read, because chances are pretty high that you understand it, but me not, or I do not understand it. So yeah, I think I'm just going to read it, but I haven't finished up with my initial thought, which is okay, we're going to talk about focus, perspective, and all this on a scientific basis. Yeah, it is amazing. It's been a really great article from the psychologytoday.com website. If you want to check out the rest of this episode or the rest of this article, then check out the episode from yesterday. Today we have the 22nd of August, so therefore you might be searching for the 21st of August 2019, and you might be just a little bit faster than, I don't know, being on the channel or something. I hope by the time that you're just viewing this certain episode that the other one is actually there as well. Because who knows what's going to be in the future? Who really knows? Maybe there's going to be some reasons why I do have to delete some things. Yeah. So how we get stuck. The brain has to do 3 operations when it experiences something bad. The first one is generate an alarm signal. The second one is interpret the alarm signal and make a quick assessment. So how bad it is and how much damage has occurred and how much threat remains. And the last one is neutralize any threat and repair any damage. By the way, yeah, English. I'm very sorry if I'm just a little bit lagging or something. I do seem to have some encoding issues there. I'm just, seeing because there's some error messages. I really hope it is not that severe, but if it is, I'm really, really, really sorry. I do not know what I could do against it that wouldn't just really fuck with the quality of the video. But yeah. So the alarm signal comes from the more primitive limbic area of the brain and is triggered by external change in the perceptual field or internal change, thought, image, and or memory. The second operation is in a more sophisticated prefrontal cortex, where the signal is interpreted and the bad thing assessed. The third and most important operation, also in the prefrontal cortex, can be classified as improve. Good self-help tells you to acknowledge the alarm signal, but don't confuse it with reality. The alarm is not the fire, because alarm systems are apt to give false negatives. It helps you assess the threat and damage realistically and focus on improving. This is a really important point because they are going to pick it up later. Bad self-help keeps you stuck in a feedback loop of the first two operations. I feel bad, confused, depressed, anxious, or grieving. Of course, I feel that way. I have every right to feel that way with all the bad things that have happened to me, not to mention my abusive, selfish, crazy moral partners and family members. Readers feel validated through the process, but only for a short time. As their focus on damage cuts them off from the solution and growth-oriented parts of the brain, feelings of powerlessness inevitably return. I feel bad and there's nothing I can do about it, and so I have a right to be resentful and angry. In place of healing and improvement, they seek validation. Many read little besides self-help books and articles for yours on aaand. Instead of an indication that self-help is not helping, the compulsion to read more and more gives the impression that they haven't journaled enough or sorted through their feelings enough, when the real problem is that they don't move to their third mental operation of improving, repairing, and finding solutions. Improving, repairing, and finding solutions to their suffering almost feels like they would be dishonoring or invalidating it. And good self-help validates first, of course, but puts most of its emphasis on empowerment, which instills the sense that you have the ability within you to improve your experience and make your life better. The next post will discuss biological and psychological principles, which when observed leads to emotional healing and growth. So this was actually the end of the article, if you haven't somehow just noticed or something. No, I'm still getting this fucking error message and I don't want that. I really truly do not want that. I'm so pumped for this episode, by the way. I'm really happy to sit here. I think it is just the happiest that I've been on this day. And it is a little bit sad, to be honest. But it is the case, it is just the case. I'm really happy doing this. I'm really, really fucking happy. But, so this was the end of this article. And I do just really have to say, besides the fact that this article is just really scientific and I do not understand everything of it, which is a little bit unfortunate, to be honest, because, I think understanding everything is actually a pretty good thing somehow, obviously, to be honest. But, as far as I understand it, it is just saying quite a lot of things, and it is saying quite a lot of important things. And something that I do just want to point out is that you definitely have the ability to change how you feel. One of the problems a lot of people seem to have, and I often actually see with people, and I do not really want to exclude myself because it's totally going to happen to me as well. I really don't want to be like, okay, I'm the self-help god there. It is really not the case. It really is not. I'm not just perfect in any way. But yeah, the thing is, people often blame other people. It is easy. I understand that. I understand that framework and I understand that thinking. But in the end, it is really like you give somebody else the opportunity and also the power to change your situation. And this shouldn't really be the case. And it is somehow also, something they talk about, or he talks about, because it is written by Stephen Stosney, PhD. That, blaming others will put you in the position that you actually have to wait until the other person changes something until you can be happy, or you can just have another situation, or you can just be, friendly again, or whatever emotion or state or whatever it is. You're gonna have to wait for this particular person, and it should actually not be the case. You should actually blame yourself. there has to be said as well that blaming yourself for everything, so for really everything, is something that people suggest, but I don't know. People like Gary Vee, he does not suggest it. He says that he's doing it himself. It is not a suggestion. It's not like, okay, you should also be doing that. The thing is, if you're happy, you're doing everything right. That's quite it. That's really it. If you're happy every single moment in your fucking life, then you're doing just the best thing you can do. And like, happy doesn't mean that you just have to be happy just the whole day long, but you, I think, should be happy every day. Not the whole day, but every day. But yeah, that's it with this article, and we are going ahead with another one. And this article is also a pretty great one. I'm just thinking about what I should be reading there and what I should be not reading there, or what I should be talking about there. But the article is called the crazier or crazier. So it is AKRASIA effect. Why we don't follow through and what we set out to do and what to do about it. So I think I'm going to give you just the basic kind of things, and he as well starts with a really interesting story, and it really is an interesting story, and I think it is just a really great introduction into this whole topic. It just is great. And I think we then just go ahead we're going to go straight to the tips then, after I've explained what it is all about and whatsoever. I do hope that I'm going to actually remind or remember everything, but yeah. So this article is about acrasia. Acrasia is actually a pretty old term. It was somehow introduced by Greek philosophers like Aristotle and the other one I've forgotten, unfortunately, because procrastination, which is basically like, okay, acrasia is procrastination. It is another term for that, or just the effect. And the thing is, procrastination has just been a thing, since we are human beings, or since we human beings actually exist. And it is pretty interesting though, because as I've been reading this article and as I've been going through it, I was like, have cavemans also been just procrastinating? Have they been like, okay, I just have to eat, but I'm a little bit too lazy for that? It is a fucking bad example, I know. But the thing is, they surely... Did they have anything to do they didn't actually want to do? Because the thing is, procrastination is most often about those things that are like work, that are like not coming that natural to us, that are like, it is not easy. Like, procrastination involves things that are not easy, at least at my point of view, because like, we won't procrastinate about some pleasure. We just won't. But yeah, James Clear very well introduces us into this particular topic with a story from Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo is actually a French author, and the thing is, he had to write a book. He had to write a book, and I think, it has to be finished, or it's just should have been finished on February 1831. So it is a story from 1830 to 1831. Victor Hugo had to write a book. And I don't know which type of author he is, like, what genre it is. I really don't know, unfortunately. But the thing is, he delayed the whole book writing thing for 1 year. He was procrastinating for 1 year, which is insane. I know, it is really insane. But the thing is, I've said the book had to be finished on February 1831. And in the summer of 1983, he actually somehow began to think about writing the book, and the years before, or the year before, I think it is actually 12 months. So he was procrastinating for 12 months, and in the summer, so basically like, what is it? Well, let's say summer is like, okay, July. Well, it is actually not always July, like it begins in June, I guess. Well, you know what summer is. I don't know what summer is, but you know probably what summer is. The thing is, he was procrastinating for 12 months, and in the summer of 1830, he actually thought about writing the fucking book. And now you might think, well, how did he do that? He had to write a book for his publisher, and it had to be ready on February 1831. He started in the summer 1830, and as you might know, writing a book, and it depends on the length and whatsoever, it takes just some time, because you have to think about a story. If it is about fiction, I don't actually know, but it probably takes quite some time, and not only like half a year. The thing is, well, what did he do? And it is actually a pretty extreme thing that he did. He actually told someone, it was actually named who, so it was basically a thing like, he asked someone to put all his clothes, so all the clothes of Victor Hugo, into a chest and lock the fucking chest. And just only leave him with like just a really what did he say? Because it is actually a word, shawl, a large shawl. It is SHAWL, and it seems to be actually something that you only have just around your neck, or like for babies to just tuck them in or something. I didn't know what it is. The thing is, he then started. So he remained in his study and wrote furiously during the fall and winter of 1830. So the basic thing that he was doing is locking all his clothes away, because then he was forced to stay at home, during the winter and also during the fall, which particularly isn't like the warmest fucking just season. Definitely not. He forced himself to stay at home and constantly write on his fucking book. It is just insane. Like, it is an insane thing, but it is very important what this story shows and what this story's message is. And by the way, he actually finished on January 14th, 1831, because then the book The Hunchback of Notre Dame was published. So it was actually 2 weeks early, which is insane. Like, you do just have to think about it. It is really fucking insane, but it is really important what he did there, because locking away your clothes changes your future behavior. The problem with us is, and as also just James Clear explains into this article, the problem with us is that we actually like short-term gratification. We like short-term pleasure. We like everything that is short-term in the present. For the future, it is like, well, the thing is, I've been talking about it before, but we are so optimistic about the future. It is actually insane. The thing is, in the future, we actually like the long-term thing. And now think about it. In the short term, or we like short-term things in the short term, or we like short-term things or short-term just gratification and our pleasure, satisfaction, whatever it is, in the present. But we like to think about it, and we like to talk about some future shit for the future. The problem there is that future becomes the present at some point of time, and then it's going to be the exact same thing. We have been, like, James Clear just really, really brought up a really great example there. And he said, like, okay, the night before we think about tomorrow as being just the most productive day and just the best day we will ever have. But then when it is actually the next day, when it is just Monday, let's say, then it is actually not the way, or it is actually not the case. We actually then fall into the exact same just traps we normally also fall in. But we have been thinking about the day before so positively about Monday, and or about just the future thing, which just shows, okay, in the present we like to have just short-term satisfaction, which makes sense. I think everybody can understand that. I also like to have just short-term satisfaction. But going for the long term is something that's really, really important. But the thing Victor Hugo did there is actually changing the behavior of the future. And also just, creating for himself a framework that is then also doing it. He had no clothes. All the clothes were locked away. Therefore, he had to write the fucking book, because he couldn't basically do something else. He changed the behavior of the future for himself by doing something. And he actually pointed out a particular word, what it is called, but I don't know. The thing is, he created a framework for himself to change his future behavior and also stick to it. And this is the point. This is the really, really, really important point there, because, if you do that, you're gonna be actually successful with your future behavior or with changing your behavior in the future. If you have such a device, I think they called it, to manipulate how your behavior in the future is, and also letting you be able to stick to it. And I've been thinking about it then, but yeah, I haven't come up with anything up to this point actually. I do hope that you've understood everything that I was talking about there. We just go ahead with the strategies and actually tactics, I have to say, tactics on, or the particular tactics on how to just do it for yourself. And the first thing is design your future actions. So, which is basically the exact same thing that I've been talking about just right before. He also talks about some other things, but I basically summarized everything just in those 5 minutes or something. It is great. I should actually go through way more articles and talk about them rather than reading them. I think it just also, creates another framework for myself. Another framework of me actually maybe talking a little bit more, but I don't know. I really hope that I haven't left out something. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just read the very first part of it just because it was a pretty interesting one. So the Asian problem of crazier or crazier, whatever it is. So human beings have been procrastinating for centuries. Even prolific artists like Victor Hugo are not immune to the distractions of daily life. The problem is so timeless, in fact, that ancient Greek philosophers like Socrates and Aristotle actually developed a word to describe this type of behavior. It is crazier. Crazier is a state of acting against your better judgment. It is when you do one thing even though you know you should do something else. Loosely translated, you could say that crazier is procrastination or a lack of self-control. Crazier is what prevents you from following through on what you set out to do. So why would Victor Hugo commit to writing a book and then put it off for over a fucking year? Why do we make plans, set deadlines, and commit to goals, but then fail to follow through on them? And the basic explanation for why we actually do these things is, we like to have short-term gratification in the present, but we actually like to think about long-term shit for the future. It is pretty interesting, and it is just so deeply correlated to we think about the future as just in such a positive and optimistic way. It is insane. But yeah, and the framework you need to beat procrastination. Here are 3 ways to overcome crazier, beat procrastination, and follow through on what you set out to do. It is basically called a commitment device. So locking away your clothes was a commitment device. Now I know the word. If it would have been just interesting or just necessary, I do not know. So there are many ways to create a commitment device. You can reduce overheating by purchasing food in individual packages rather than in bulk size. You can voluntarily ask to be added to the banned list at casinos and online poker sites, which I didn't actually know, but it is actually a pretty good way to prevent yourself from doing stuff. I think in general it is not a really easy thing. It definitely is not an easy thing to prevent yourself from doing just not good things. Just because I think about it as just such a interesting thing, to be honest, because it is really we have to prevent ourselves from doing some things. It is, to some degree, it is also just pretty insane, to be honest, and pretty interesting that we have to. And I don't know if other animals are actually doing it as well, but I don't know. I really do not know. It would be really interesting to see and to just know. Would really be interesting. The second thing is that he points out, reduce the friction of starting. The problem that he points out is that we actually just, once we start a particular behavior, once we start working out regularly, once we start to do this and that, it is basically also somehow about habits, then it gets easy. Sticking to it is another thing, but sticking to it is another thing. Still, but the procrastination thing, in terms of procrastination, starting to do the thing is actually the most the biggest burden we are having actually. But it is the biggest burden. Therefore, reducing the friction of starting is very, very crucial, and it is very important to also being successful with what you're doing there. And this is the point in this section. This is the point. So you have to constantly reduce the size of your habits, put all of your effort and energy into building a ritual, and make it as easy as possible to get started. Don't worry about the results until you have mastered the art of showing up. I like showing up because Seth Godin is also talking about showing up. And showing up is actually pretty important. Showing up is a really, really good thing. Utilize implementation intentions. I haven't gone through this one, so therefore I think I'm gonna read it. An implementation intention is when you state your intention to implement a particular behavior at a specific time in the future. So like, okay, I'm gonna work out for 30 minutes on blah 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 on this particular day, particular hour, whatever. There are hundreds of successful studies showing how implementation intentions positively impact everything from exercise habits to flu shots. In a flu shot study, researchers looked at a group of 3,272 employees at a Midwestern company and found that employees who wrote down the specific date and time they planned to get their flu shot were significantly more likely to follow through weeks later. Interesting. It seems simple to say that scheduling things ahead of time can make a difference, but as I've covered previously, implementation intentions can make you 2 times to 3 times more likely to perform an action in the future. Fighting a crazier. Our brains prefer instant rewards to long-term payoffs. It is simply a consequence of how our minds work. Given this tendency, we often have to resort to crazy strategies to get things done. Like Victor Hugo locking up all of his clothes so he could write a book. But I believe it is worth it to spend time building these commitment devices if your goals are important to you. Aristotle coined the term enkratia as the antonym of acrasia. While acrasia refers to our tendency to fall victim to procrastination, enkratia means to be in power of oneself. Designing your future actions, reducing the friction of starting good behaviors, and using implementation intentions are simple steps that you can take to make it easier to live a life of enkrasia rather than one of acrasia. And with that being said, and this is going to be the end of the episode, it's because we're already 25 minutes in, which is actually 27, I think. But it's been a quite good episode. But yeah, with that being said, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered. And I also hope that you're going to just think about what you're trying to achieve on this planet, what you're trying to change, so what pisses you on the most. And also something that I have to say is that no matter how nice you are, there's going to be somebody that doesn't like you. So think about that in terms of your legacy. But I see you the next time, and thank you very much for listening and watching. I see you.